When it comes to building in Sumter County, experience matters. From remodels, barns, additions, and accessory buildings to creating the custom home of your dreams, our Hogan Construction delivers quality you can trust. Russell is hands-on and on-site daily, going above and beyond to ensure the project isn't just completed, but crafted to perfection. He doesn't just meet expectations, he exceeds them. For a builder who puts integrity and craftsmanship first, call R. Hogan Construction today at 352-793-7660. Russell Hogan Construction. Built on tradition, built to last. All right, welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and today we have a special guest. He is a talented singer and songwriter, and I don't want to go too far into details, but without further ado, our guest today is Mr. John Johnson. John, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you, buddy. It's good to be here.
I'm trying to figure out the reason why people pre-fish, because I'm like, don't the fish move? I mean,
they will a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, but I get the reason why, especially if you've never been to that lake before.
You're learning your way around, and you're trying to find a pattern more than a spot. You're trying to find, kind of what they're. If you really get it dialed in, what you find is what they're just barely starting to do and about to start to do for the next 3 or 4 days.
Right.
That's the guys that are winning,
Yeah.
If they're doing it really good, but they've been doing it for 5 days, they're probably not going to do that the first 2. Yeah. Maybe the first day of the tournament. By the end of the weekend, they're not. They've moved. The fish have moved on to something else, and the fish don't know they're playing, so they don't have. They're.
Yeah, a friend of mine, my buddy Jim took me fishing one time because I never had a boat. So I always try to catch a ride with somebody if they're going. So, hey, man, you want to go hit the lake? Let's go hit the lake. Let's go to Lake Harris one morning. So he's like, yeah, man, let's go. So he picks me up about, 5 o'clock, 5:30. We roll into Leesburg, and boat ramp is completely full there on 27. Completely full. So we're like, well, let's go to Venetian Gardens. And you couldn't see.
It was even worse over there.
You couldn't see the boats, but you could see the boats. And that makes sense. Like you can see them out in the water waiting.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, he's like, hey, let's go to Lake Eustis. Let's go to Lake Eustis. All right. So we went over there. And that boat ramp there across from the orange juice plant. So we put it in there. And the night before it had stormed pretty bad. And I didn't know. Maybe he did, but he didn't tell me. But all that grass is laid over, and we're going bass fishing. You're not going to be able to. So we throw out, and in about 2 hours we're like, all right, we ain't caught nothing. I think he might have caught something, but it wasn't a keeper. Just throw it back. So we go across the lake, and his boat starts like acting up a little bit. So he's like, hey man, we need to go back. And I said, heck yeah, let's go back, because I'm not swimming or paddling back to the boat ramp. So we get back in the canal. We go, he gets the truck and trailer, and we load up the boat, and we get out, we start putting all the stuff away. And I said, man, it's a shame that we never saw a bass the whole time. About that time, 5 feet from the boat ramp, there's like a 3 or 4 pound bass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. But it was comical because here we are,
because it's true.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just the way it goes, man.
That's why they call it fishing.
Yeah, it's not catching.
It's not catching, and you like you say, if your 30-minute TV show was up, so you didn't.
If you had to go to the bathroom, you missed how they got to where they were.
That's right.
You're like, oh man,
that's right.
Unless you recorded it, and then you're like,
yeah.
But those fishing shows. See, when we grew up, we didn't have. I always sound like an old man when I say this, but we didn't have all those fancy things like cable and stuff. But we had the old antenna,
Oh yeah.
But my grandfather next door, he had the big satellite dish.
Yeah.
The one that could pretty much start World War III.
You get stationed from British Columbia,
Yeah, the ones that they end up making big bird bass out of when you can't do anything with them. But anyways, we would watch that kind of stuff on there. But that was the only way of seeing that kind of stuff growing up.
Yeah, we didn't have cable either, and because we lived out in the boonies.
Yeah.
And but my grandmother that lived in Webster, my dad's mother, her and my grandfather, they called it cable, and I'm sure it was the old cable TV. I mean, they got like TNN and CMT, and I'm sure they had MTV if they never watched it, but they, or HBO, they would have never watched that, but they got those channels, and that was like to get to go to there, because we had, like you said, we had an antenna. We had 4 channels.
Yep.
And somebody had to go turn the antenna a certain direction to make sure, to get, because channel 9 was a different direction than channel 2, and you had to go through all that. But it was funny. My wife's family, she didn't grow up there, but her parents and all her aunts and uncles and cousins are Dothan, Alabama.
Okay.
And we'd go up there to see them back in the late 80s, early 90s. And everybody up there had a catfish pond and a satellite dish. There was a red brick house. If you had 5 acres or more, you had a red brick house, a satellite dish, and a catfish pond. That was that was like the rules to live by.
Yeah, exactly.
South Georgia, South Alabama, probably, and Southern Mississippi. That whole that belt across there. That
means you were doing well.
You were middle class. You didn't have you didn't.
Oh, you were doing okay.
You were doing okay, but that's sad. But you're right. Those satellite dishes. And then what do they do? I mean, because some of them were huge.
I'm telling you.
I mean, comparatively to what
Exactly. We had my grandfather's. We had to mow around it, and you sometimes you clip your head.
Oh yeah.
And of course, we had the old snapper. We're driving the old snapper like Forrest Gump would drive around.
Yeah, pre-zero turns.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it made it so much easier when you get that. You go whoop whoop, and then you're done.
Yeah.
That one you're like, all right, I got to go left.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, or the lawn tractors that had an actual steering wheel on them, and they turned one direction sharper than the other, and then steering would always go out on them. It eventually, the deck would go bad. Yeah, I still hate mowing.
I do love mowing. I love it.
I do it, and we've got a zero turn, but that's my goal every year, is to write a song that pays enough where I can pay for a yard.
I'll just come to your house and mow your yard.
Okay, come on. Deal. Dude, you can use my lawnmower.
Oh, man, I love it. I really do love it. I don't know why, but I love it. It's like, I even had the, like, you can get the farming simulator.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're looking at it on the computer screen. You're not even, I'm baling hay. I'm mowing, I'm raking, I'm fluffing, and then I'm baling. And it's funny because I don't know why, but it's just.
Once I get started mowing, I'm okay, as long as the lawnmower's running good. And we've got a good one. And that's if I'm not having to work on anything, I'd much rather mow than weed eat.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I hate weed eating.
No doubt.
But I will put my earbuds in, and I'll either find songs that I want to learn. I may make a playlist of songs I want to learn, and that's one of the ways I learn the lyrics is just listen to them over and over and over. So I may pick 5 songs and just put that shuffle on repeat. And in the hour and a half I'm mowing, I may hear those 5 songs however many times.
Right.
And other times it'll be, a friend of mine that's a recording artist, or I just take my iTunes and just shuffle. And it may be Tom Petty, Cody Jinks, Brian James, Austin Stanley, whoever in a row, I never know, maybe 3 Jamie Johnson songs in a row. I don't,
right.
However they, kind of whatever mood I'm in,
or however the shuffle goes.
Yeah. However the shuffle goes.
I've had shuffles go where it was 3 Kenny Chesney songs in a row. And I'm like, now I know there ain't as many Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and get them all out of the way, right?
Yeah. Mine, and it's funny, mine'll sometimes throw songs up there that I forget that I even, I don't remember buying them, and I don't know why I bought them. And I'm like, this isn't a very good song. Where did that come from? And I'll, and you can barely delete them.
Oh yeah.
It's so then hopefully they don't make it back during the mowing season again.
Yeah, I don't know what the attraction is to mowing, but if I had a 25-acre lot and it was just all grass, and it's got to be grass. I don't want to be going in and out of trees or mowing dust. which
you don't
is
want
pointless.
You're not doing land clearing. You don't. you want to mow a yard. That's what you.
I want to put me in a tractor. I will,
and I don't mind it as bad on a tractor as I do on a mower.
Well, you got the tractor, you got the cab, you got
it's a bigger area usually, so you kind of feel like you're kind of doing something.
Yeah,
you get to mow with a tractor, you have to mow with a lawnmower.
True.
I mean,
true that, and you got the tighter spaces with the mower. You got but like when I'm going down the side of the fence, man, I can get it, man. I can pop it where that post comes. Mm-hmm. Now they've got these mowers now where they have this. They've got where it's got a little cutout in the deck, and when it comes to the pole, it turns. And it'll cut all the way around that post.
Kind of pivots around it.
Yeah, which is the coolest thing. And I'm like, man, you don't have to weed eat.
Why couldn't we invent that, Billy?
I know.
I mean, we'd have a boat. We invented that.
I know.
We would have a boat. We'd probably be fishing.
Listen, some of the things that I've thought of, I'm like, man, there's no way that somebody's already done this, and they're way heavy.
Well, it's just still the best invention ever was toilet paper because everybody wants it, and you only use it once.
That is true.
You get rid of it, and then you got to have more of it. You know, talk about repeat customers. So that one's been taken. That one's done.
Genius.
Yeah.
I used to, back in the day, probably, I don't know, it was like 2008 or 9. I took there's a comedy club over in Orlando called SAC.
Yeah.
You've heard of it? So SAC, they do comedy classes. So I was like, I'm just going to do this for fun because, you get to meet new people and it's all improv comedy and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to go do this. So I took a semester or whatever. So I did my first semester, and one of the guys that was there with me, he was this, I think he was Japanese or Korean. He invented the sunglass clip for your car.
Wow.
And I'm like, bro, that's something everybody would use, you know?
Yeah.
And then of course, it's not that I didn't believe him, but when somebody tells you that, you're like, oh, okay. You give them the benefit of the doubt, and then you kind of you dismiss it. You're like, okay, well, what else are we doing? But then I'm watching an Orlando Magic game, and he's sitting courtside. I go, well, this guy must have money. I'm like,
he's got his money somewhere.
Can't remember his name, but he was really super, super nice guy. But I saw him at courtside. I was like, oh my God, there he is.
That's funny.
That Joker was lying.
And he was just taking the comedy class just
for fun,
killing time, spending money. Yeah.
Just to burn time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good for him though.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I like I said, I'm here. I am trying to. I'm not doing this for fun. I'm trying to help myself. But he's like, oh, I could kill a couple Sundays or whatever. It was like an 8-week class. So
wow,
but it was cool. They taught me. They teach you a lot of stuff. And people think it's like if you just say, hey, I took comedy classes, people go, well, if you're funny, you don't need classes. I'm like, no, there's a big difference. You can't look at it that way. You have to look at that. That's why people do sets. That's why you play so many times. If you were the best guitarist or the best drummer or whatever, pianist, you wouldn't need to practice. But that to me is just like practice.
Yeah.
Because you're exercising skills.
Yeah. And anything like that, any skill like that,
right.
We have people that will say we'll say Joe Walsh is a master guitar player. And he is. He's amazing. But Joe Walsh will be the first to tell you he practices guitar all the time.
Yeah.
He learned something. Charlie Daniels learned on the fiddle and the guitar all the time. Charlie Daniels was taking guitar lessons the last year of his life. He played guitar, and people think he was a great fiddle player, and he was, but he was a better guitar player.
Yeah.
But he still took guitar. He went and practiced scales, and I'm up into the last few months of his life.
Yep.
And to be better because he knew he was never going to be. He'd never stop.
Right.
And comedians are the good ones, the funny ones.
Yep.
Now they may get into something else. A lot of stand-up comedians, they get into acting and something else. You know, and then they get rich and they don't.
Well, the best way that I've heard it is even like Dave Chappelle. I really do like Dave Chappelle. He kind of is his own. He cut his own way out. You know what I'm saying? He's not like anybody else you can compare to.
Right.
I mean, you could compare him to a couple of people, but it's not really like he
didn't
has
copy
his own
him.
style. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So But he'll come in, like, say he flies into Denver, and he's like, he goes to a comedy club and says, "Hey, do you mind if I come in and do like 15 minutes, which turns into 45 minutes or an hour?" And like, there have been times where people are leaving, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 don't go anywhere. We got Dave Chappelle back here," and they're like, "What?" It's crazy, but he doesn't have to do that. Why does he do that? He gets better at what he's doing.
Keeps his edge, and that's why you'll see singers that do that. They'll be in town for something and maybe have a night off or an afternoon off, or maybe they played a matinee show and they have the night off, whatever. They may go to some little club where there's live music, and you may not recognize them in their baseball cap and sunglasses.
Right.
The artist up there that's singing, the guy that's like me that's stuck in the corner, he will recognize him.
Right.
And that, you want to do a couple? Yeah, I'll get up, And there's videos of Vince Gill doing it. There's videos of Jinx doing it. There's everybody, has kind of done it. People are like, wow, then the place goes crazy and they got to sneak them out the back door, but it happens in Nashville. Not as much as it used to.
Right.
Used to happen in Nashville a lot because everybody would go see everybody. I never forget I was up there one time and Beverly was with me, and I think it was one of her first times there, and we went to see went with a friend that was living there. We were visiting. We went with a friend that was living there to see Sam Bush had a band. Sam was an amazing mandolin player, played with Newgrass Revival and played in Emmylou Harris's band. He's royalty in Nashville. And we would see this little pickup band he had playing, and we're sitting there, and it's just a bunch of folding tables like you'd see in a church, fellowship hall, and chairs and tables like that, and everybody's sitting around quiet as listening to the music,
Yeah.
And Beverly starts elbowing me. Look, and there's Vince Gill and Emmylou Harris sitting at the table right next to us. They paid their $2 each to get in.
Wow.
And then the rule is, and those kind of things, you don't, you leave them alone. And then there was this one and that one, but you'll see them around town. Now Nashville's so different. Broadway's so different with all those clubs and all downtown. It's not even recognizable to the back in the day. But and that's sad because people, they miss a lot of, they don't know now what they're missing.
Right.
They'll go to Old Red.
Yeah.
But they'll never see Blake Shelton.
Right. No.
Well, Blake making money because they're using his name. I was gonna say
he's in the back counting money.
Yeah, he's probably in a deer stand making a TV show. But
it's funny. I just saw a video and I can't remember where it was, and it was. I don't know. I can't. I'm about to find out so I can tell you because I want you to see the video. But some guy said something about. One of the reasons why Luke Bryan got so big is because Merle Haggard died. He said Merle Haggard was alive. Luke Bryan wasn't even remotely popular. Merle Haggard dies. Here comes Luke Bryan.
Well,
I'm like, dang.
I don't know that. I don't really follow his thinking, but
I know. I was like, what he was. I think his point was. People wait till someone that might say something leave for good, pass away, and then they go, okay, now we can try to push this.
Of course, they hadn't played even. They quit playing Haggard on the radio years before.
Yeah,
and that's just kind of the way it. And here's the other thing. You take it. We were talking about a while ago, like George Strait and Jamie Johnson, and then Haggard and Jones in their day. Because the very simple fact that people don't realize if there's only a very few companies in the entire nation and they own every radio station,
right?
Every terrestrial radio station, no matter what genre it is. They may own a rap station, a pop station, a country station, and a news radio station, but there's just a handful of these companies that own them, and if they don't get paid a lot of money, that artist will never get on the radio.
Right.
Ever. It doesn't matter who they are. Well, George Strait, he's going to sell out in Vegas.
Yeah.
He should be on the radio. He's obviously good enough.
Yeah.
But, from a business standpoint, why? George Strait's like, they're going to come. I'm going to sell tickets and T-shirts and caps and koozies, and they don't need. And the independent artists have finally Jinx has been the big one that's kind of done that in the country music industry. He's really taken a hold of his business. He's doing it, and he's got a couple of that are platinum, which is 1 million units sold.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And for an independent artist that doesn't have a big record label pushing them and paying these radio stations to play them, that's a lot. I mean, that's unheard of back in the day.
Right.
And, he's got tour buses and semis and no record label that he's got to pay back.
Yep.
So that's why I really appreciate guys like him and the way even some of the older artists, like I say, like George Strait, Clint Black, Bob Seger.
Yeah.
Bob Seger could write a banger.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
If somebody else sang it that's popular now, you would hear it. But
yeah, do you think the way I'm totally speculating, but the way you're talking about, well, I could go to Vegas and sell out. Do you think that's more beneficial than for someone to have airplay on the? I always think this is the way I look at it. The radio's for the kids that don't have money. People are going to go see the shows and spend the money. That's where you want to go. So,
and you get the demographic, then that's what it all boils down to.
Right.
The record labels, their job, they make records to sell.
Right.
And that demographic is 14 to 17-year-old girls.
Yep.
At the end of the day, everybody's got to be honest about it. That's who buys, produced music for the most part. I buy my stuff on iTunes and everything, but it doesn't matter what it is. For the millions of dollars that are spent, that's the majority of it. So me and you, if we're in Vegas, if me and you and Nicole and Beverly decide to go to Vegas and spend a weekend, we're going to look and see who's a show. Okay, well, here's George Strait, here's Adele, here's whoever. And we're going to say, well, we can afford to go to both of them, so we do.
Yeah.
And if we can't, we pick the one that we usually pick the one that's got seats left out there.
Right.
Good
seats.
But those artists, why they can go spend a weekend there. They can go do a Friday and then 2 shows on a Saturday.
Yep.
And fly back home, fly their band back to wherever they go, and they're good.
Yeah, well, that's like that's why you see a lot of these country thunder.
Oh, the festivals
now,
the festivals have historically they're terrible pay for artists, but the way they're doing them now with some of these bigger names that still want to be on the road, that are still bussing it a lot. The big acts they can do because they charge what they charge, and if they don't get that, they don't go. That's it's up to them.
Wow.
So if they're not making any money, it's kind of their fault, after a point. But then some of the artists that are the openers, they may or may not, and it's funny because you get nobody goes to see the guy that's opening for the opener. Because I've been that guy a million times, and you're playing to your family and and the security guard, it's kind of, and the security guard's not paying attention because he's got nothing to secure. There's nothing, But and every now and then you'll get, but I mean, those guys aren't making any money, but at least they're out there doing, out there trying to do something.
Well, that's like we went to Nicole and I bought her tickets to see. It was Brett. Is it Brent Combs? Do you know him? Brent. I think it's Brett Combs. Brent Combs. Then there's it was Gary Allen.
Yeah.
Lainey Wilson and Luke Combs.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe not Brent Combs. I'm thinking of. Maybe it's Brent.
I remember when y'all went to that show.
Who was the opener? I can't think of his last name. And I didn't know that guy, but he had. I ended up downloading some of his songs, and he's got some decent songs I listened to. One of the funny things was when he was all done, he probably played 6-8 songs, which is pretty good for an opener, whatever. But when he got done, he goes, all right, I'll be in section 308 or whatever, Raymond James. I'm going to be there if you want to come hang out and have a beer. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you want to tell everybody, but.
And and you can do that. You can say, I'm going to be at my merch table. Well, that's cool because the star's not going to be at his merch table,
So. I'm trying to think of that guy's name real quick, but he, like I said, he did a good job. I mean, it was like, It just,
well, if he's on that ticket, somebody's heard him and he's probably got some talent, know, and he's probably living on beans and rice on Thursday and rice and beans on Friday, but he's living the dream, so.
Yeah. Do you think, what are your thoughts on the newer, like, because I mean, I'm a big Lainey Wilson fan.
Yeah.
So I love me some Lainey. Nicole.
She's good.
Nicole rolls her eyes every time, but I always give her a hard time. She's like, well, I'm a Cody Jinks. I'm like, you can have Cody Jinks. I'll have Lainey Wilson, whatever. But these newer guys, like I say Cody Johnson, not Cody Jinks. Cody Johnson, if I didn't say it right. But you got that. Take that guy.
Yeah.
Who is a rancher.
Yeah.
Or
a real cowboy.
A real cowboy.
Yeah.
And just on the side, he just. I'll go play a concert. I'll sell out a concert. You know what I mean? It's like
well, he can do that now, but he certainly paid his dues before that. But here's the thing I say about Cody. He's really good. He's really talented. I like a lot of his songs. I do a couple of his songs.
Right.
And we're kind of cut from the same. He's an ex-bull rider. I'm an ex-bull rider. We understand a lot of the same thing and know a lot of the same people. The only thing is kind of what he's doing it through Nashville, and Nashville has kind of put, if you watch his show, he's somewhere between George Strait and Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
He's a real cowboy standing there in starched Wranglers and a real cowboy hat.
Yep.
But he's jumping off the top of speaker cabinets, so he's kind of somewhere, and that's a Nashville create. Now, he puts on a rock and roll show. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's high energy. And he's good at it, and God bless him for it. But I'll promise you, somebody somewhere said, keep doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm anxious to see when Nashville doesn't want him anymore, what he really but he's still going to do it, still going to make a living at it, like say Jamie Johnson is now.
Yeah.
What Cody Johnson shows look like, and it may look exactly the same, and that's great if they do.
Yeah.
But when they don't have as much control over what he puts out and how he puts it out,
right,
I'm anxious to see, because he's really good. And there's I still call him new, because he is to me, because again, I'm old, even though he's been around Nashville forever. But Chris Stapleton is an amazing talent
on another level, man.
I'll tell you a funny story about him, and it goes back to local. Bobby Bear, was, of course, he used to spend every January in Lake Panasoffkee fishing. He would stay at Tracy's Point, and he would fish.
Really?
He'd be there, and it would be him and maybe one or two of his band guys, some of his people, and Porter Wagner would be there, and Jerry Reed, and Little Jimmy, and they would all come. But Bear would be there all month, all of January, and I was home from Nashville, and I was out of music. I had taken that 10 years that I didn't do anything music because I was fed up with the industry, and me and Bear were on Lake Pan fishing. And I remembered hearing of Jamie Johnson, kind of before and around Nashville and everything. I said, boy, that Jamie Johnson's really finally coming on. He'd just come out with You Should Have Seen It in Color. It was really, that was climbing the charts. And he's like, yeah, he said, we're all, everybody's glad to see it. He said, there's a guy you need to listen to. He said he plays for a rock and roll bluegrass band. His name's Chris something. In a few minutes, Bear said, Stapleton. Chris Stapleton. And I said, okay. And the rock and roll bluegrass band that he was talking about was called the Steel Drivers.
Okay.
And I don't remember, it had to be before YouTube, Billy's. I don't even remember how I found it, but I found a way to listen to Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
For the first time. I was
probably LimeWire.
It may have been. And I was like, holy wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
This guy. And then, years later, so he's been around.
Yeah. But
Stapleton's one of the newer, I'll call him newer generation.
Yeah.
That I really, really, I like Lainey. My favorite, and I don't know how popular she is on the radio, because I don't listen to mainstream radio at all.
Yeah.
One of probably my favorite female is Ashley McBride.
Okay.
Because I love her writing and the way she delivers what she writes. She's just so good, and it's no nonsense.
Yeah.
And Lainey's good. Lainey's probably on the radio more than Ashley. But they're both really somebody that I really, really like. Zach Top, new guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's kind of getting on the radio a little bit, they say. I've heard. And he's country as a bowl of grits. I mean, he's but really talented.
Yeah. Pat's Taps at Catfish Johnny's. Pat's Taps is Lake Peninsaukee's newest tap room, offering 14 rotating craft beers on tap. We also offer bottled domestic beers, seltzers, ciders, and wine, as well as a variety of appetizers and pub food. Our family-friendly tap room is a great place to come hang out and enjoy some one-of-a-kind craft beer. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or the Untapped app. Catfish Johnny's Restaurant, serving the Lake Peninsauke and surrounding areas since 1990. For the last 33 years, we have strived to serve great food at great prices and a friendly, casual atmosphere. If seafood isn't your thing, our burgers or wings are the best around. We have daily specials too. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Pt2 Realty is a homegrown business with an eye for getting the job done right. From football games to Sunday school and everything in between, these ladies care about our community and the people in it, helping buyers and sellers in all of Florida with all types of transactions, including residential, commercial, farm, or vacant land. They do it all. They even offer auction services and sellouts to always get the job done right. Promotional consideration paid for by the following: Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck, the delicious mobile coffee truck that brings you the caffeination inspiration you need. We deliver signature coffee products like our Nitro Cold Brew and Caramel Frappe to any occasion or festivity. And for those who don't like coffee, we offer a variety of delicious hot chocolates, energy drinks, lemonades, and teas. That's Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck. Whether your water is supplied by a public municipality or a private well, for residential or commercial use, Purified Water Services LLC has the solutions to provide you with simply clean water. We offer a complete line of professional water filtration equipment and accessories. Soft water makes a difference you can see and feel. Water heater and appliances last longer with less maintenance. Iron and H2S filters eliminate iron stains and offensive rotten egg odors and protects your water softener equipment from iron fouling. No matter what your problem is, Purified Water Services LLC has a solution. Contact Kenny Williams at 352-446-2709. Promotional consideration paid for by the following: Webster Ace Hardware and Farm Supply are generous sponsors for today's podcast. They have been a family-owned business for 27 years. This helpful hardware store sells items such as archery, Ariat clothing and boots, Wrangler jeans, case knives, Hammond's candies, and live fishing wear. They also have a full selection of hardware, RV supply, propane, Ben Moore, Royal & Clark, and Kingston paints. You need a barn or fencing job done? Custom barn kits and roofing metal are provided at your local Ace Hardware store. What about a new grill for the yard? Traeger, Big Green Egg, Weber, and Blackstone are found here, along with all the accessories to go with them. Stock up your workshop with DeWalt, Milwaukee, or Craftsman tools. They got you covered. Remember to go to ace.com to shop their entire line to have items shipped directly to the store. I think having a little bit like with Lainey, I'm not taking anything away from Lainey. Obviously, I'm a big fan of hers, but I think that Yellowstone cameo helped her out tremendously.
Never hurts.
Oh God, I
have some friends that just had a song played on one of them had one on the Yellowstone, and then the other they co-wrote when it was on Landman.
Oh man. And I love that show, bro. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So good.
And it's but to get that, because those are the people that watch that are the same people that are going to listen to independent music. Mm-hmm. They're going to find Cody Jinks.
Yep.
And they found Lainey Wilson, and it really helped Lainey.
Yep.
It did. She was going to be able to make a living and a good living in the music business. It may have expedited it a little bit.
That's why I said I want to take it away from her.
And it may have taken her to some different ears.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh gosh, yeah. I would love her, because that pays way better than Spotify.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I heard a lot of because I know we were a little behind on the game, but we just finished Yellowstone,
Yeah.
For what left us. But I remember hearing a lot of Sturgill Simpson too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was there's a lot of people on the soundtrack there for the whole series.
Yeah.
That are just like, man, I really would have never thought of this person.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know anything about Lane.
And there's a lot of people on there. I got a lot of people that'll come up to me and they say, "Hey, have you heard of this guy?" Yeah, I've been listening to him for years.
Yep.
But they heard him on her.
Yep.
On Yellowstone or Landman or one of the other, one of those other and I'll have to give that guy credit. He's a huge independent music guy and he likes that Texas and red dirt scene. So he's pushed a lot of those guys, Turnpike Troubadours and all those guys. He's really
Taylor Sheridan has done more for MTV in the last 6-8 years or less than that whenever he started Yellowstone.
Yeah.
More than MTV has done for
he wasn't on anybody's
30 years.
He wasn't on anybody's bingo card 5 years ago.
No.
None of that was.
And he did Hell or High Water.
Yeah.
Which is a great movie.
Yeah.
And again, you talk about a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. It's just one of those things, but that's what makes a great movie. Why does everybody remember Forrest Gump so much? It's a great movie, but what complements a great movie? That soundtrack.
And you can always tell the difference, and I'm probably giving a secret away here. You can always tell the difference when they pick a soundtrack or when somebody's paid to have their songs on a soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the songs are just in there and they're just kind of random, you're like,
yeah.
That's in the background,
Yeah.
Like Taylor Sheridan, he doesn't, Laney didn't come in and say, I'm going to make $1 million, so here's $500,000 to get my song on your TV show.
Yeah.
He just said, I like this girl.
Yeah.
She can sing.
Exactly.
She can write.
Yep.
Her band can play. Let's put her song. It'll fit right here.
Yeah.
And it just, and then like I say on Landman, Ward Davis is a singer. He has a song that he co-wrote with a buddy of mine, Clint Park and Brother Greg, and they had a song called One Bad Apple. It was on Landman. Well, how many people have never heard? You've never heard of Ward Davis, Clint Park, or Brother Greg, but you're going to want to go look them up and see.
Exactly.
And it's funny because we're talking about different ways to do a song. The way Ward does it is totally different than the way Clint does it. They co-wrote it together, but their interpretation of the song is different, but still their names, that's gold, because that's at the end of the day. I mean, I got to make money. It's what I do for a living. The money's got to be there. Yeah. But as an artist, I kind of just want, I want to be heard.
Yeah.
And they don't have to come up and pat me on the back. Oh, you're so good. It's not. If they like it, they'll keep coming back.
Yeah. And I didn't know this till the other day, and I felt, it's funny when you find out something you never really even paid attention to, and you're like, I'm 43 now, okay?
Yeah.
And there's things I still learn every day. Obviously,
absolutely.
But that's life. Yeah. But I mean, there's things that are like really obvious. And this is not one of them, but this is something that's interesting. And a lot of people are probably like, yeah, duh, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that if you, and you're probably going to say the same thing, if you went to the recording studio, you don't bring your band in the studio.
Very rarely.
There's a band that plays for you, and that's all they do is
especially in Nashville.
Right.
Now, the independent guys, they usually take their band in, and then they'll have guests that say, maybe they don't have a fiddle player on stage. They may say, well, I know Joe, he's a great fiddle player.
Right.
We'll invite him, But yeah, it doesn't.
I had no clue.
And in Nashville, you will get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that's all they do is session work. They do everybody's session work.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And then, it's just George Strait, one of the best bands, stage bands ever, and Ace and the whole band. They didn't play for years on any of his stuff.
Right.
And just the way it was. He had no room to. Finally, he got big enough that he said, well, I just won't record. And the record label said, well, okay, we'll let them play a couple, and it's controlled so much.
Yeah.
And you're not, and a new artist is no way they're going in there.
No.
And letting Alabama, they didn't play. Jeff Cook played guitar and fiddle on there, but the bass player, Teddy Gentry, he didn't play bass on their first like 3 albums.
Yeah.
He just went in there and sang harmony vocals.
It's bizarre though, because that's who you see in the venues. You know, you go to the concert and that's it. Okay, so like I always see Lainey Wilson's band. She's got this guitar player. He's got the long hair, and he's very like animated on stage. And he's funny to watch. Yeah. And every time I watch her on a CMAs or whatever, or we did the New Year's Eve rockin' countdown show. That same guy is there, but I know that he wasn't there when she wrote or when she recorded those songs. Yeah. And it's just, but if you had no clue, you're like, oh yeah, their band comes in. Yeah. And just, I always like to picture them in there doing, like when you're listening to the song, I like to picture them sometimes in the studio recording. It's like a
and it's starting to happen a little more. Yeah, you start to see it a little more, but a lot of times they're not even we'll say Lainey, she's not even there when that guy does his guitar part. Yeah, exactly. Or they piece it together. It'll be put like my CD that I've got out now. The lovely and talented Brooke Shea. Yeah, she sang harmony on 2 songs, and I was playing the day she was able to. Her and JR were able to coordinate the studio time. Right. I wasn't even there when she came in and sang the harmony parts. It was out, the tracks were laid down. Brooke came in. She had heard the songs I had sent her, kind of the rough cuts, and she, kind of knew what. And I said, you guys just figure it out. I trust you, because she's so stinking talented anyway. And I said, just do your thing. You just sing. You just be Brooke. Right. And between JR's, what he does in the studio and where he put it, and her vocal ability, she just. That's what people ask. They listen to the CD and they don't say, well, I like your song. Who's that singing? Who's that girl singing harmony? Who's that female singer singing harmony? Boy, she's good. Yeah. Well, yeah, she's talking about, what about, oh no, but tell me about you. And you're okay. But I mean, what about the harmony part? Yeah. And, she, and we would go, and when the steel guitar and fiddles were put down, we recorded it. I was there, and JR said, okay, I'll put it all together later. I'd come back a week later, and he'd done whatever voodoo he does. And his guitar parts, because JR played lead guitar on it, I wasn't there when he played it. I had no idea what he was going to do. I just had to approve it after I heard it. If I didn't like it, we'd try something different, but I liked all of it, so it worked. But a lot of times they're not even, a friend of mine recorded in Nashville, and he said that he had a lot of guys used to play on some of the old Hank Jr. albums. And they said Jr. would come in, he would sing every song 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And that would be it. No going over. He'd just go through them, and he'd say, all right, y'all find what works. And then whatever he got there in, bus or car or plane or train or whatever, he'd go get back on it, and he was gone. Wow. He wouldn't be in there 5 hours. Wow. And he was done. And he sold a bunch of albums. Yeah.
Whatever he was doing worked.
Yeah, whatever he was. But I mean, that's probably Hank at his best. You could overproduce that. You could try to fix something that wasn't broke. Yeah.
Well, that individual right there, excuse me, that individual right there is, man, a lot of people, whether they like him or not, just the way his background. Yeah. Coming from. I'm headed up to Montgomery in a couple weeks. My brother lives up in Prattville, which is north of
I know
Montgomery,
exactly
right?
where Prattville is.
Okay, so we're going to go up there and stay with him, and I want to go to the Hank Williams Museum. Yeah. I want to go to see the grave and everything. I want to do the whole shebang. Yeah. But just knowing how big he was, and then when Hank got old enough to where he could go on stage and do what he did, and the things that they said about him, and you're not your dad, and we all experience that. People have always said that to us. You'll never be like your dad, but this was a whole
level of
whole nother level. Yeah. To where he would write songs about it. Living Proof. There's a couple other songs, Family Tradition, all these songs that he coincided with his songwriting with his situations of being on stage and
And there was only a small group in Nashville that kind of had his back.
Yeah.
There was, Waylon and Johnny Cash, June Carter Cash. There were some of them that always were kind of in his corner, and they probably kept him alive.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. But they always kind of just kept saying, just go be you, just go be you. But the industry, the bean counters, they were always, you got to be. We went and saw, and got to see Ben Haggard, who was Merle Haggard's youngest son.
Okay.
And he was actually playing in his dad's band when his dad died, at the end of his career in life. And Ben's an amazing guitar player and singer. But his whole show was doing his dad. I think he did one song that wasn't
his. That was his.
And my wife was like, I want to hear his songs. And I do too. Yep. But of the thousands of people that were there, we were the minority. They wanted to hear him sound like his dad.
Yep.
They wanted to hear, and that, there's no bigger Merle Haggard fan than me. I want to hear the Haggard song, but Ben's so good. I know he's got something in there, and I hope he gets to do that one day. And he may be happy just covering his dad. I don't know, but I would think that he's got his own stuff that he would love for people to be able to hear, and he just may have to take those baby steps to get there. But Hank Jr., I can't even imagine, because we get it in this little county we grew up in back in the day when everybody, I had to marry a girl from Marion County, so I would marry a cousin, and then it's still pretty close. But your dad didn't do it that way when he was 27. Well, maybe he did it wrong. Maybe I'm the one doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't say that.
Are you sure Hank done it this way?
Yeah. You can't. We've all at our own level, but I can't imagine what Junior went through at that.
Well, not only that, he pretty much almost died because of it.
Oh yeah,
going out trying to get away from all that, and climbing Ajax
fell off a mountain.
Yeah, come on, man. It just
the list of people that have fell off a mountain and get to tell about it is a small list.
I know it's in a song, but I know it's the truth, because you got to have some truth to songs in order to bring it to life.
Absolutely.
But some of the lyrics say when he fell off the mountain, and people just kind of disowned him.
Yeah.
Like they knew it was, he'll never be the same.
Yeah.
And then, but that just shows you how, that happens in life so much. People count you out. But then when he made a comeback, those same people were calling. They were coming.
Well, and a lot of those people that counted him out were probably some of the same people that were holding him back before.
Oh, no doubt. Those are the haters.
And so when they let go of him, when they let him, it probably freed him up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And the rest of us, we're the recipients of that, So, because you're right, they washed their hands of him. Then they were done with him.
Well, Hank Williams Jr. was, in our generation, obviously we didn't know Hank Sr.
Right,
but we put him a little higher than his dad. And it's funny how,
but he was ours.
That's what I mean. But it coincides with they go side by side with each other. But it always cracked me up, because even Jeff Foxworthy had this thing that said, if you think God looks like Hank Williams Jr., you might be a redneck.
Yeah.
But people, I don't know. They love him.
Yeah. Well, he looked like your next door neighbor. He acted like your you know what I mean?
He did.
He's kind of that guy, and
he was every man.
And he was that. Well, that was That was he was what every guy wished he had the cojones to go be.
Yes.
Yep. He'd say whatever he wanted because he didn't care. He'd take his shirt off at a party, and he just he was the exact way you were told not to act.
Yeah.
But you looked up to him for acting that well,
You know what's funny is I never knew this until I was a little bit older, but my grandparents went and saw Hank Williams Jr. at
Really?
a concert. Yeah. They said he never got out of his chair, and all he did was drink. I know he just got sloshed, but that was just his style.
The very first concert I ever went to.
Yeah.
I was old enough to drive. I might have been 17, but I think I was still 16.
Yeah.
It was a Lake County Fairgrounds, and it was Hank Williams Jr.
No way.
And it was outdoor.
No way.
And it was just general admission. Everybody sitting around in this big open field pasture.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the opening bands were. Like I said, I was 16. But I remember he was supposed to go on at like 6, and he came on about 8. And I remember it being one song. he started playing, and it went for 2 hours where he never quit playing.
Yeah.
Even if it was in a different key, they just go right into the next, and I'm all about no dead air. I get but I mean, it was like the ultimate Hank Jr. mashup, is what it was. And I wound up leaving before, because I remember it was on a Sunday afternoon and I had school the next day.
Wow.
And it was the Lake County Fairgrounds, so I had to be back in Wildwood. The little girl I was dating, she had to get her, home on a Sunday night, and so we couldn't stay for the whole thing. But that was my first concert. It was a Hank Jr. concert.
Wow. And you thought Freebird was long.
Oh yeah, it was like
it was like a 3-hour
there's nothing
song.
to it. And he might have played Freebird during that set. I don't know.
It was just a big mashup.
It was just
Wow.
one song right after the other, and you knew them all, but they would just. There was never not even a 2-second break in between.
He wanted to get out of there.
Yeah,
probably.
he just did. Well, that's when he had the Bama Band and Buddy. They just ripped it and they just nonstop. Just
that's so funny.
But it was and you couldn't see him. I mean, he was. I don't know,
300 yards away
at least. He was a football field away. But he was up there. You could see this big hat. And that was way before big screens.
Yeah,
and anything
that makes a difference. Is big screens.
Yeah, because the way they did them back then, you just kind of had to trust there was them up there.
Yeah,
you could hear them, but you couldn't.
I mean, that's why we all thought Dusty was there. I mean,
that's right. Now you could, if with the big screens, you don't really have a bad seat unless you're sitting in the sun or the rain or something like that. You can kind of see and hear everything.
Yeah. What's the wildest concert you ever been to?
Probably that one, but I was too young to realize it.
And you left early too.
Yeah,
you didn't stay for the whole thing.
Golly, that I wasn't playing at.
Yeah. That you were not participating, but speculating. Spectating, I should say.
I don't know, because I've never been to a lot just to go. I mean, by the time that I got to where I would want to could go just to go sit and listen, I was grown and And it was, and they were all indoor. It was indoors. In arena shows.
Right.
And it was before they did a lot of these big stadium shows. They would do arena shows were the thing. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
From the stage or from backstage, and some of it by fans and some of it by other artists. But I'm seriously, I would have to guess, because that's the only time I ever saw Hank Jr. I would have to guess would probably be, even though I really didn't know what was going on, there was probably that Hank Jr. show back then,
Wow.
Because I didn't go to any after that. I mean, they just didn't come to this area.
Right.
And then
I still can't believe he came to Lake County. That was,
Lake County Fairgrounds, man.
Speaking of fairgrounds, Shenandoah's coming.
I did see that the other day. Yeah. They were just in the Villages, and my niece and nephew went to see them.
Yeah.
And got to meet them. And
that's cool.
I want my niece, Taylor, she's a Instagram influencer, whatever that means, but a lot of the things she did was coordinated and with some of the band members and newer band members from Shenandoah.
Oh, that's cool.
And they kind of got to be part of that, which she was telling me about it, and she was cutting my hair the next day. And so I said, well, did you tell him your Uncle John's got songs? I said, no, I forgot to tell him that.
You left that part out.
Yeah. But yeah, I did see that. I saw a couple of names that they were coming, and I haven't looked at the dates on them. I'm probably booked, but Shenandoah. I'm trying to think. I did a show with them somewhere, and I can't remember where. It was like a festival type show.
Yeah,
but I just remember. Of course, this was all the original guys. Such good, nice guys,
Oh yeah, they always seem like they're nice.
Guys, and a lot of times they don't listen to the openers or have anything to do, anything. And some of them are extremely nice. Some of them you never know they're there. Some of them are extremely rude.
Yeah,
it's just because they're all humans, and it's just human race. But
you never know what you're going to get.
But I'm trying to think when Taylor and I were talking about that show she went to, and I still can't remember where it was or when it was, but it was, I don't remember. I remember thinking how nice they were, and and not thinking, boy, those guys are jerks.
Yeah.
You know, because what stands out one way or the other, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't remember anything bad about him.
Another band like that is like Diamond Rio. Like they always seem like they're the same kind of guys.
Yeah.
A good group of guys.
Real down to earth.
Like Little Texas.
Yeah.
Like bands like that. Those are good. Like
real down to earth.
Yeah.
Just kind of, and a lot of them now because we're older, they're more mature.
Yeah.
So this is their business model now.
Right.
It's not about the party.
Right.
And maybe never was for some of those bands, but some of them it was. Some of it still is. But it's, it's about the actual giving the people what they pay for.
And a lot of them have families now, so they're
they do. They're
family oriented. Yeah.
Well, there's this thing called the internet now.
Yeah, true.
Where you can't
mess up.
You can't deny anything. I mean, you can't.
Right.
It's a Joe Walsh. He would have been on the internet tearing up hotel rooms. If he was, if doing it today like he did, 40 or 50 years ago, So, but he's probably glad that this. I mean, everybody knows about it, but he's probably glad there's not a video, and there may be. I don't know.
Well, I was about to say, aren't you glad that you grew up at a time where they didn't have someone had a camera out at a party or over at your buddy's house or whatever film? Now, when I was a kid, I'd say kid like middle school to high school years. I was the guy with the behind the camera. I was always the handheld camcorder. Like, last day of school, everybody, whatever. And actually, I found a tape of that the other day. It was my junior year, last day of school.
That's funny.
It's funny because you go back and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, look at us.
Yeah,
we were so young then.
And we thought we knew so much.
Oh yeah.
We didn't know anything.
No, we didn't know anything, and that's so funny to see. You hear kids now, they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm like, and you're just like, hey, look, there's nothing wrong with having a goal.
No, I hope they do.
I do too. But don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen, because there's nothing worse than someone with a plan, it doesn't go their way, and then they don't have a backup plan.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, or statements I ever heard was, a plan is simply a list of things that are about to go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really all a plan is. And you got to learn to pivot. How you pivot determines
exactly
how well things go for you. I really believe that.
Right.
You can, because you're going to fail at a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I try to, I used to, Nolan Ham.
Good guy.
We all love Nolan, and he's a great talent, and when he would come and he would sing, and be a lot of his family there and everything. And of course they loved him. They're his family, they're supposed to.
Yeah.
I never forget one time he played somewhere and he said, people weren't paying attention. And I said, listen, you can't. Yeah. He said, nobody clapped. I must have been there. I said, no. I said, nobody there is related to you.
Right.
Your family's job is to. I said, and eventually your family's going to quit going. My family's heard me like, he's good. Yeah, okay,
we'll see him at Christmas.
Yeah, we'll see him at Christmas. Yeah, but so I said, and I had to kind of encourage Nolan, don't give up on that, because that's just that's just part of. You're just going to be background noise. Yeah, moving forward more times than not. Yeah. You're going to have friends that'll come out, and then fewer and fewer of them are going to come out. They got lives. They got I love it. Like when y'all come out, I love to see it, but I understand you got this going on. There's the kids have things.
Yep.
There's just, and guess what? Everybody works for a living. Everybody's tired when they get, I'm that way.
Yep.
If I get my feet put up at the house,
game over.
I ain't leaving. Yeah. I'm there. I'm hooked. I was off last, was it Friday or Saturday night? It was kind of cool. She stopped and picked up something for supper because it was Friday. It was her into her week. Yeah. And man, I got done with that and I went out back, built a fire, and I didn't move. Yeah. I put my feet by that fire pit. Yep. And I was out there at 11:15 when I came in. I was out there for 4 hours. Yeah. And happy as a clam. Yeah. And I kind of needed that because I don't get to do that. Right. And if there's a fire pit, I'm there, I'm usually being paid to play. So I don't get to go stand around the fire and shoot the breeze, Right. And that's okay. But for me, just to sit there and I had my tunes going, I had one of my little speakers that's got a Bluetooth, and it just, down me and that crazy blue heeler dog of ours just sitting out there by the fire. I was chilling out. He was wanting to chase a tennis ball 9 million times.
You need to get you a cannon. Like when it's just automatic shoots at the tennis ball.
That crazy thing. Man, I'll tell you. You can tell now he's getting. He'll be 3 in the spring. So you can tell now he doesn't always run back with it. When you're about able to go inside, he'll start walking back with it. He'll still drop it. He'll still want you to throw it again, but he walks back and he's kind of looking around the yard. And he's like, kind of acts like he's staring at something in the pasture. He's taking a break's what he's doing.
Wow,
he's getting a second wind.
Yep. He's waiting. He's like, if I could just delay this just a little bit.
Well, yeah. Then he doesn't. Yeah, and he does that, but he finally did the other night. It was kind of because that's the first time I think since we've had him that I've been able to do that. And he just kind of all of a sudden he just kind of chilled out and he said, "I'll just lay here with Dad, kind of look around." And every now and then he'd run off and he'd hear something and he'd think he'd have to save the world. You
got to protect the house.
Oh yeah, because that's his job. He's declared that as his job.
He's good at his job.
He's good at outside security. That's what he does. Yeah.
Thanks for watching episode 2 of this 3-part podcast. Tune in next week for part 3.